Dear panelists and participants, a warm welcome to the ninth episode of the Skills Bridge Masterclass series. I'm pleased to inform you that more than 3,000 participants from 130 countries have registered for this masterclass. Your interest inspires us to continuously improve and bring you the best practices and speakers across the world. A big thank you to all of you for joining today's event. I am Ashwani Agarwal, Head of Skills and Lifelong Learning Policy, Systems and Digitalization at the ILO headquarters in Geneva. And it is my pleasure to moderate today's masterclass. To ensure a smooth event, I would like to mention a few points for participants. Please note that the session is being recorded and the recording will be available on the website of the event. Using Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, you may submit your questions anytime during this webinar. Please also mention the names of panelists to whom the question is addressed. As common for the webinar format, participants' mics and videos have been disabled. You may please use the chat to share any examples of innovative practices or reports from your countries. You can always share relevant websites from your countries which provide that information. So it is also an opportunity for you to network with other participants from 130 countries. You can see this is a great opportunity for you. We will also have audience poll during this event, which will also allow you to interact. After the event, we will upload all presentations and resource materials and share the link with you. As you know, today's masterclass focuses on excellence and innovation in education and lifelong learning, which is crucial to rapidly changing world of work. Actually, excellence and innovation go hand in hand. Innovation propels excellence forward. At the same time, excellence is the foundation upon which innovation stands. Innovation fuels our education system and institutions, enabling them to create cutting-edge tools and methods that meet the challenges of the fast-changing world of work. And the excellence ensures that educational programs meet their objectives, ensure the employability of graduates, drive sustainable development, and promote social justice, ensuring that no one is left behind. As lifelong learning becomes increasingly important for both personal and professional advancements, educational institutions must offer personalized and adaptable pathways, transforming themselves into lighthouses of excellence. Nonetheless, significant gaps still exist. Many universities and training institutions are struggling to connect graduate skills with the needs of the labor market and offer limited options for flexible lifelong learning. So we bring together leading experts from globally recognized organizations, including the World Bank, European Commission, OECD, NSDC India, and the World Skills to discuss these challenges. I request all the panelists to kindly open their videos so that the participant can see who are present here. And all these experts will share invaluable insights and solutions to inspire and enhance our educational frameworks, shaping the future of learning. With this background, let us start. The highlight of today's event is the keynote address by Dr. Mamta Murthy, Vice President for Human Resources at the World Bank. An economist with doctorate from the University of Oxford, she has written extensively on poverty, education, skills, and lifelong learning. She is well known for her commitment to advancing inclusive human development. Considering it is very early in the morning in Washington, where she is based, we will play her pre-recorded video message. However, I would like to inform you that Ms. Indira Santos, senior economist from the World Bank, is present on the panel and will respond to your questions on behalf of Dr. Modi. So you are always welcome to post questions in the Q&A box. So I request the team to kindly play the video message of Dr. Modi.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm honored to provide the keynote address for this episode of the Skills Bridge Masterclass series. I want to thank the International Labour Organization, the National Skill Development Corporation of India, and UNESCO for inviting me. Today, we come together to explore a pressing issue that will shape the future of work: the critical need to promote lifelong learning. At a time where change is constant and innovation is accelerating, the ability to adapt and grow is a necessity. In fact, we are at a pivotal moment in history, a moment defined by rapid change and transformation. The world as we know it is being reshaped by the changing nature of globalization, technological progress, including AI, demographic shifts, and climate change. The future of work is being redefined in real time, and with it, the very fabric of our economies and societies. At the same time, we face the daunting challenge of recovering from the profound setbacks inflicted on young people by the pandemic. The learning losses from school closures endured by an entire generation threaten to undermine the potential of future workers and limit the opportunities available to them. So we cannot afford to ignore the long-term consequences of this setback to learning, especially when so much is at stake for the workforce of tomorrow. Equally urgent is the struggle against poverty. The compounded impact of COVID-19, economic downturns, and overlapping crises, including war, has deepened inequality, pushing millions further into poverty. The road out of poverty is through having a job that offers a paycheck, but also a pathway to dignity, to opportunity, and a brighter future for families and communities alike. And critical to quality job creation is skills. No country has been able to sustain growth and transform its economy without investing heavily in skills. Last year, the World Bank, the International Labour Organization, and UNESCO joined forces to launch a report on building better formal TVET systems. This report underscores the critical need for robust and high-performing TVET systems, which are essential for equipping individuals with the skills they need to thrive in the changing world of work and facilitating smooth job transitions. The report documented that despite the immense potential, TVET often falls short of expectations. The challenges are well known and multifaceted. TVET learners face significant hurdles. Teachers and instructors often lack the necessary support, and providers operate with weak incentives, leading to inadequate links between TVET and the labor market. All of these issues together culminate in a critical disconnect between TVET programs and labor market needs. So the report identifies that policymakers, education stakeholders, and development partners must work together differently to shape TVET systems in three key ways. First, to strive for excellence in TVET rather than recognition. Second, to focus on results rather than inputs. And third, to base decisions on evidence rather than conjecture. And I urge everyone to take a look at this report. Beyond TVET, millions of young workers globally are entering the labor force without the skills needed for a successful lifelong career. In fact, many find themselves unemployed after graduation. This, combined with the increasing longevity of the workforce and rapidly changing skill needs, makes it essential to build robust systems for lifelong learning. Lifelong learning requires more than ensuring that graduates get their hands on the first rung of the ladder to good jobs. It also requires supporting them as they climb and pulling them back up if they fall. A skills system, that is, all the policies, programs, and institutions that together provide workers with the skills needed to thrive and the ability to find quality jobs, must continue to support adults and out-of-school youth. They must have the opportunity to update and renew their technical skills in response to evolving trends and technologies, and also to strengthen their foundational skills when they are lacking. Access to career guidance and labor market programs is also essential, supporting placement, enhancing productivity and earnings, and providing information on training and work opportunities. The role of government includes ensuring a competitive market of accountable TVET and training providers, as well as supporting the flow of information on labor market trends and analyses to ensure that the skills being provided match the skills that are growing in demand. We must also find innovative solutions to ensure that informal, self-employed, and inactive workers are not left behind. Now, how do we do this? Well, across the world, we see examples of good practices that offer a roadmap for building comprehensive and holistic systems that are needed for lifelong learning and employability. Let me give a few examples. For instance, the World Bank's Chile Califica, which is a project that uses 5 key components to strengthen Chile's lifelong learning system. First, it expands opportunities for the flexible completion of secondary school, ensuring that education is accessible to those who might otherwise have been excluded or delayed in their learning journey. Second, it strengthens vocational training systems, aligning them with the needs of the labor market, so that young people and adults alike are equipped with skills that are directly relevant to available jobs. Third, it focuses on supporting job-relevant training programs for out-of-school youth and adults, demonstrating that learning doesn't stop at the classroom door. Fourth, it develops a national system for the certification of labor competencies. This ensures that individual skills are formally recognized and validated, providing both credibility and transparency in the labor market. Finally, the project establishes a robust information system that guides career and education decisions, helping individuals make informed choices about their learning and career trajectories. Together, these 5 components contribute to building a complete system for lifelong learning in-demand skills. Meanwhile, other projects have explored innovative approaches to promoting excellence in education and lifelong learning. Projects in Kenya and Ethiopia are testing the effectiveness of results-based contracting of training providers to incentivize demand-driven training for employment. A regional operation across East Africa supports the regional exchange of knowledge on good policies and practices, student and faculty mobility, and harmonization of vocational standards and qualifications. Other projects demonstrate that it is possible to provide skills training and career development opportunities at scale to underprivileged and hard-to-reach populations. For example, by providing socio-emotional skills and entrepreneurship training to out-of-school youth in rural Mongolia, or by building lifelong learning centers for rural nomadic youth in Greece. This is the challenge that we face for the future of work: to strengthen education and training systems, ensuring that they are flexible, inclusive, and forward-looking. It's not enough to prepare individuals for the jobs of today. We must equip them with the skills and mindsets to navigate a world of constant change. We must also find better ways to support all workers on their career journeys. This means providing ongoing opportunities for learning, reskilling, and upskilling, so that no one is left behind, no matter their age, their background, or their stage in life. The future of work isn't just about creating new jobs. It's about ensuring that every worker has the tools, the resources, and the support needed to unlock their full potential. The task before us is nothing short of creating a world where people can thrive, personally, professionally, and in harmony with the planet. This challenge is also the opportunity of a generation. Let's rise to it together. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murthy, for the excellent keynote address, highlighting the critical role of lifelong learning and skills development. You also provided excellent examples, specifically from the Chile's comprehensive approach to lifelong learning, where flexible secondary education, demand-driven vocational training, and a national quality certification system ensures alignment between skills and labor market needs. You also shared examples of using result-based financing for training provider, which is quite a challenging, and I think it could also open up many more countries to learn lessons from your initiative and then try it in their own countries. Another important examples you mentioned is from the East Africa, where the efforts to harmonize vocational standards across countries to promote regional mobility is being tried. In fact, most countries nowadays are looking for means to promote international and regional mobility and skills recognition. So this example could also be very useful to them. So once again, thank you very much to you. And this keynote address provides a solid foundation for this master class. With this one, I will request all the participants who are present in large numbers here, if you have any questions or queries on the keynote address of Dr. Murthy, please post your questions and queries in the Q&A box. Please do not put your questions on the chat button. Chat button you use for networking, sharing information, and any other purpose. But questions, please put only on the Q&A box only. Now with this one, I will request the team to please launch our first audience poll, and I invite all participants to please take part in the audience poll. Can you please launch the audience poll? You can see the question is, what do you think is the most important factor in promoting excellence and innovation in education and lifelong learning? And there are 6 options are there. You can choose, you may please choose only one which you consider as the most important one. We'll give you, maybe we'll take 1 minute time for you to answer this one. Then we'll move ahead. Dear team, maybe we have to go further because we cannot see on the screen the options, and some of the participants are also mentioning. We only see the question. Maybe we can launch this poll a bit later. In the meantime, you check it out. So we'll go to the our now panel discussion. So today we will showcase three important initiatives to promote excellence. And can you please remove from the screen the audience poll? Thank you. Uh, so today we will showcase three important initiatives to promote excellence and innovation in education. The first one is on centers of vocational education. Most countries want their education and training institutions to be centers of excellence, and they take several initiatives to promote them as centers of excellence. However, what we have noted is that success rate is not so good. Now, the European Commission has started a massive initiative to promote centers of vocational education. So it is my pleasure to invite Ms. Chiara Giordino, Head of Unit for Vocational Education and Training at the European Commission, to present this initiative. She has extensive experience in employment policies and advancing the European Pillar of Social Rights. Previously, she worked in the Italian Ministry of Economy and Finance. Welcome, Chiara. Your team has created a very nice short promotional video on COVE. So before I interact with you, let us watch it. Team, please run the video. Thank you, Chiara, and welcome again. So thank you for this very wonderful video and starting these initiatives to promote Centers for Vocational Education program. So maybe I'll request you to present the key features of this program, including funding model and some successful examples. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ashwani, and good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be there. Good morning or good afternoon, depending what time it is where you are connecting from. I have a few slides, so I would kindly ask if they can be put on the screen. You have seen our short video. I think what you saw, the little digital people do is actually what happens in our centers of excellence, where the normal traditional classroom has also been transformed in a digital classroom where people from different countries can really interact through smart desktops and other digital walls and other forms of cooperation. I do have some slides. I don't know if it's possible to show them and to. Oh, yes, I see it now in one of the windows. Then please, if you can move to the next slide. Thank you very much. So this is a flagship initiative of our biggest, I would say, cooperation in education program at EU level,
Anna,
which
I
is
like to just maybe just can you wait for a moment? Because at least on my screen, I'm seeing you, not the presentation. But
I managed to pin it to the center of the screen, so now I see it.
okay, okay,
Yes. I don't know if others also see it. I will talk in the meantime, and I'm
okay.
sure that people will let us know if they cannot see the slides. In any case, the slides are more of an aid to the presentation. So as I was saying, we have a program in the EU which is called Erasmus Plus, and this program funds projects and cooperation in education and training, as well as, of course, the mobility of students to have learning opportunities abroad within the EU and partner countries, which is maybe what it is more known for, at least to European citizens. But among the projects that we fund through Erasmus Plus, the Centers of Vocational Excellence are really a flagship.
Anna, can I just
Yeah.
request some participants are saying that they cannot see the presentation. Maybe can you switch off your video for the timing? Keep your mic
Yes.
on.
Yes, I
Just to
can.
see whether, and the team, can you kindly see whether the presentation is on the screen, not on the Kiara screen?
No,
Kiara's.
it's I found it in the participants basically, and then you can see the little videos from participants who have their
Now I can see
camera.
the messages are coming from participant. They cannot see on the screen. Kiara, can you present from your screen? Can you share your screen? That is better.
I'm afraid I don't have the
Okay.
presentation on my screen, but I think it's just a question of finding the right window and pin it in your Zoom meeting for participants. So now I don't see it any longer, but I saw it earlier and I managed to pin it. But if not, look, I can also do it without the slides, and I can just
Okay.
tell you about Coves.
Okay. Please continue.
Okay, then I put my video back on uh, just so that participants don't stare at a black screen. All right, I hope that you can see me. So the centers are a flagship project of Erasmus Plus, and we are funding these projects with 400 million euro for the 7 years 2021-2027. So we work with 7-year-long financial programs in the EU. So we are looking at 2027 now, and we would like, our goal is to fund 100 centers of excellence by 2027. These are basically networks of centers of excellence, actually, that act at local level, and then they partner up at EU level. I see the presentation is coming back. And I'm pinning it. These projects can work on specific sectors such as construction, automotive, sustainable fashion, water management, etc., but also work on horizontal topics such as the green and the digital transition and social inclusion. So far, we have 53 projects running, and we are looking at the call that was published this year in 2024. and hopefully we will have 15 more projects joining. So we should be able to get to 68 running centers of excellence projects by the end of the year, with projects starting early, the last wave starting early next year. The duration of this project is a 4-year, and each project can count more or less on 4 million euro to support their partnership. The requirements are to have at least 4 countries, each with 2 organizations, because of course the element of cross-border partnership is very important for us. And we see that it's very much appreciated in terms of applications, because we have far way more that we can fund with our budget. So the interest is there to have this kind of cooperation and partnership experiencing. For the moment, we have a very wide range of partners, because we have from 12 partners in a project to 85 partners, including all the associated partners. And we have more already than more than 1,000 organizations that are involved in the projects, of which around 25 are from countries that are not associated to Erasmus+. And we have just published the latest call for the new wave of projects in 2025, which is the program guide for Erasmus Plus 2025. Of course, as the title of the initiative says, the Center of Excellence, excellence is at the core of the project. And we talk about excellence by design. And what does it mean? I'm looking forward to the results of the poll, what it means for you. Certainly for us, the partnership element is a key element of excellence. And we have partners that range from vet institutions, of course, that are our main heroes in the project, but also universities and applied research institutions, the business side. So we have also big companies, SMEs, chambers of commerce, and of course, public authorities also are key to make the whole machine work at a regional level in particular. The centers of excellence have a bottom-up approach, and they decide what they want to work on. So we don't have calls that are focused on a specific challenge or sector, but the calls are open, and then partners come together and they decide, oh, we want to use on beekeeping, we want to work on beekeeping, or we want to work on additive manufacturing, or we want to work on social inclusion, or we want to work on artificial intelligence. So it's really open. And then, of course, the projects that score the highest quality are selected for funding. How can organizations that are not in the Erasmus Plus program be involved? Well, first of all, we have a very close cooperation with the European Training Foundation, that is a European agency that promotes vocational education and training with our partner countries. And they have developed a network of excellence and support services in cooperation with the European Commission, including tools for self-assessment and a sort of a cookbook, what to do and what not to do when you are setting up a center of excellence. Then in Erasmus Plus, it is possible to participate as full partner with funding in the project, even if you're not a country that is covered by the program. But this is limited to specific circumstances. So when the participation of the country is duly justified by being an essential value added to the project, and this value added would not be possible to be achieved without the participation of that organization in that country, or they can participate as associated partners without funding, though. So it is possible to participate, and we have a community of practice of the Centers of Vocational Excellence, and they have a lot of information on what is ongoing, so they would be an interesting source to explore. And I believe that maybe this presentation that you cannot see now can be shared. So you will have there the link to also the community of practice and other things that I am discussing now. I will go quickly through some concrete projects so that you can have an idea of what the centers do based on concrete examples. One of our oldest projects is the POVE project, which is about water management. And it was set up in already, it was one of our pilot projects, but then there was a POVE water scale up in 2021, where the project has set up also a center of excellence for water in South Africa. And another very interesting element of this project is the cooperation formalized through a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Education and the Department of Water and Sanitation, for example, in the Netherlands. And of course, different countries decide how to operate at local level, but these are quite interesting examples to share. Another project that has Ukrainian partners is the H2 Cove, which is a project in the hydrogen sector. And they have two full partners from Ukraine, as well as Win for SMEs, which is a project about innovation in SMEs, also with one partner from Ukraine. Then one other example that I can mention is the project called Catalyst, which is European VET Excellence for Sustainable Systems and Business Transformation, where we have associated partners from Bosnia Herzegovina. So this was a bit of a quick overview. Apologies again for the lack of visuals, but I hope that you can still have an idea of how our projects work, and that you might be interested to follow up and look for more information. So thank you very much, and I give the floor back to Ashwani.
Thank you very much, Chiara. I think you have created a lot of energy among the participants. We can see on the chat there are so many participants coming from various institutions. They have expressed their interest in this particular program, and they are asking how they can collaborate with you, how they can become also centers of vocational excellence. Many they are very active chat now, and also some questions have been in the Q&A. So your team who is present here may kindly look into those questions and they can reply. At the same time, again, I remind participants, if you have specific question, please put that one in the Q&A box. Other comments, general comments, you please mention in the chat so that our team can, all the panelists and team members, they can answer those questions. Again, thank you. Chiara, basically what you said, I very much liked your presentation and the new way of thinking of centers of excellence. Traditionally, we always think about how to make training relevant, high quality, and relevant to the labor market needs as an outcome and inclusive as an outcome of the centers of vocational excellence. But that remains your objective. But I think very importantly, what I can see the new wave, for example, hydrogen COV, water management COV, these are the new way of thinking, futuristic models, and addressing the challenges in the coming times our societies are going to face. And I'm sure these are going to make VET much more attractive. And we always hear that nowadays the younger generation is not very interested in the VET. They are more interested in going to universities. And these initiatives and the examples you have shared are noteworthy. And also you have given examples of demonstrating partnership at different level. One, across countries in different continents. Second is not only between VET and industry, which we usually talk, but also involving universities and research institutions, so that they are not only training delivery institutions, they are generating new knowledge also. They are doing research, they are creating new innovations also. So thank you for this one. But many participants also have a question. For example, I'm taking it is well said that everyone knows partnership with the industry is very central and crucial for the success of any training center. However, uh, experience of the countries is that establishing such collaboration often presents significant challenges. So, what would be your advice based on your experience to uh, how the countries can enhance such partnerships between industry, research institutions, and vet institutions? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ashwani. Yes, for us, definitely the partnerships in general and with industry in particular are key to the success of this institution, of this project, sorry. I think that like in every good partnership, there are reasons to come and to stick together. I think that in our projects, we see two main models in a way. One is I do something for you, you do something for me. And so it's clear for the partners that come together that they have something to gain from this partnership. For example, centers of the training centers have access to skills intelligence or sometimes the latest machinery that larger businesses can offer. But on the other hand, centers of excellence can also train the workers or retrain the workers of participating companies. So there is a mutual offer of services and of expertise that is a win-win for everyone. Then the other approach that we see, and that is maybe the one that is we see the most, is that the partners come together for a common challenge. And I will give you the example of the European platform for urban greening. I think there you can see that everyone who is engaged in the platform, from learners themselves, students, to the training institutions, to the companies, to the public authorities, they really have a strong desire to achieve a common goal of building more sustainable cities. And therefore, everybody really wants to chip in with and do their part. And even competitors in the same industry, in a way, if you see companies from one country and companies from the other country, don't see themselves as competitors because they see such a long way to go, as such the challenge is so important that we don't see each other as competitors. We see each other as partners in making this better for everyone. So I think this is what really makes the centers of excellence tick: the passion and the involvement of the partners who really want to work together for the common goal. Then, of course, if you talk more in general about partnership with industries, for industry, there is also the element of corporate social responsibility. So working with the training institution is a way also to give back in some instances. For example, in the centers that work on social inclusion, there, of course, it's clear that there is more this aspect. And I think that at the end of the day, it's clear that all the partners are stronger. So this is where we have to look to. We have to look at the advantages and the gains that largely outweighed all the difficulties in setting out the partnerships, all the concerns. So my suggestion is work on your selling proposition and work on what the advantages that these partnerships can bring to everyone.
Thank you very much, Chiara. I think uh, while the European Commission has always been in the forefront of supporting many countries across the world in improving their skills development systems, but you can see with today's presentation, there is going to be more and more demand. And we are glad that you have extended the concept of supporting countries on COV to countries other than Europe also with some conditionalities, and which you have already explained. But I think I'm sure you will take this message back from all the participants to the commission, that more needs to be done by the commission because this is generating a lot of response from the countries all over the world. Thank you once again, Kiara. Now we'll go to our next topic. Thanks for
Thank you
staying
very
with us,
much.
Kiara.
Bye.
Now, dear participants, we'll try again the audience poll, because what I've been told by our team is that you have to team, please show the audience poll, that you have to scroll down for the answers. Now it is clear, very visible. Many of you have already answered also, but I think it's again an opportunity for those who have not had a chance to answer or choose an option. Please feel free to choose again the options, exercise the option. And we can already see that, of course, we'll soon show the results to you, all of you. So I'm just giving another around 15 seconds for you to click. Okay, team, can we display the results to the participants also? Yeah, please, can you display the results? Yeah, so can you see the results on the screen? Uh, uh, Clearly, we can see that there is a divergent views. While I can understand that all the options are important, but when we always ask choose one to see how you prioritize. And clearly the answers are clearly indicating towards more on some of them, while it doesn't mean that other factors are not important. I'm just checking our participants can see the results themselves. Okay, so they're saying that you can see the result. So, but now without going into much details of this one, now we'll move to save our time, we'll move to the next topic, which is also very interesting, as we were discussing the centers of vocational excellence. This one is on the personalized training pathways. Now, every international and national education and skill strategies recommend developing flexible, personalized training pathways to promote lifelong learning and inclusion. However, implementation experience on the ground is not so good. So this is an area where this recommendation is easier to make, but quite difficult to implement. So we have invited Dr. Marike Wandeer, Senior Policy Analyst at the OECD Center for Skills. She leads work on vocational education and training, focusing on future-ready systems, the green transition, and technology in education. She holds a PhD in economics. So welcome, Dr. Wandeer, to this session. And I request you to make a presentation on personalized training pathway. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ashwani. I'll try to share my screen. I hope it's gonna work. Seems a bit slow. Let me try again. Yes. Do interrupt me if you would not be able to see it, Ashwani. Okay, it's working for me at least. Okay, thank you very much, Ashwani, for the introduction, and for all the organizers for the invitation to join today. So I'm gonna briefly talk about lifelong learning pathways, focusing specifically on two concrete examples from countries that have implemented interesting pathways to enable lifelong learning. But before going into those examples, I just wanted to highlight quickly why it's important to look at that. I mean, I know Ashwani has given some introduction already on the importance of lifelong learning, but why does this? What's the link with the flexible and personalized pathways? So we know that learning happens in many shapes and forms, in many different settings. And I just wanted to highlight a few data points here as well that we have from the OECD. So we know that some people participate in formal training. So they go to education training institutions, formal education training institutions, so TVET schools, higher education institutions, to obtain a formal qualification. So qualification that is in the national qualifications framework. But this is only the tip of the iceberg, in fact. So this is only a small part of the training that happens. If you look at OECD countries, around 10% of adults say that they participate in a formal training in a given year. Now, many more people participate in what we call non-formal training. So these are organized training activities, but they don't lead to a formal qualification. So that could be a short course, it could be an online training, it could be something organized at the employer. So it takes many different forms, and this type of training is much more common among adults. So in the OECD, again, we see that around slightly less than 50% of adults say that they participate in this type of training in a given year. Now, that means indeed around half of the people do engage in this type of organized training activities, but obviously also shows that there's a lot of adults who do not engage in organized training. Now, at the bottom of this kind of pyramid, you also see that there's a broad base of people who do engage in some type of learning, but what we call informal. So they learn by doing things, discovering new things, learning from colleagues, learning from people in their that they engage with in day-to-day life. Data from the OECD show that in the workplace, around 70% of workers say that they engage in this type of informal learning on the job. So a lot of learning happening, different shapes and forms, and we need to value this type of learning. We need to enable it. We need to support it. And for this, the pathways are indeed important. And I wanted to highlight three aspects of that. So first one is personalization of pathways. And I'm happy to see the results from the poll just now that you highlighted flexibility as important. And indeed, if we know that people engage in different types of learning, we need to make sure that when they learn, that there's a sort of personalization that can happen, taking into account the fact that they have already gained skills in different settings, at different periods in their life. They have different preferences. Some want to learn at work, some prefer a classroom, some prefer online learning, for example. They have different needs. They also have different aspirations. There need to be clear pathways between these different forms of learning, between formal and non-formal. So for example, you've done a non-formal course, this should be recognized towards a formal course if you want to, but also between levels. For example, if you've done a TVET qualification at the upper secondary level, there needs to be a pathway for you to higher levels as well, whether that's higher TVET or higher education universities. Pathways need to exist, they need to be accessible, and they need to be clear and understandable. And the last point that I put here, it's maybe not immediately related to pathways or not so clearly, but I think it's crucial. So we need to make sure that everyone has a solid basis. So you can only effectively engage in these types of pathways in different forms of learning if you have the basics. So without solid basic skills, so literacy, numeracy, problem solving, digital skills as well these days, it's very difficult to engage in lifelong learning. So if you don't have the basics, it's hard to build on it, of course. So I think that's key for the basic education system, but also for TVET and other forms of learning, making sure that people can close basic skills gap and effectively enter into these personalized pathways. So that brings me to the two examples that I wanted to highlight for you today. And the first one comes from Finland. So it's one of the OECD countries. They reformed their vocational education system quite extensively in 2018 with the purpose to make it more flexible. So they realized that training needs are becoming more diverse, that people need to invest in their skills throughout their lives, so that there needs to be flexibility. So they've really reshaped the way they think about vocational education and training to allow people to have kind of these flexible pathways. And in practice, and this is a bit simplified, there are 3 steps, let's say, for everyone. So everyone who wants to go into TVET first does a skills assessment that results in a personal competence development plan. So every learner has their own competence development plan that recognizes where they are, so the skills they already have, identifies the gaps, and then identifies the training and the guidance that is needed to close those gaps. The plan is developed by the teacher together with the learner, and in some cases also together with an employer. So once that plan is in place, then they move into skills development. So the TVET provider, together again with the learner, will decide on the formats and the content of the training. So what needs to be taught to close the skill gaps, what modules do people need to take to close the skill gap, and in what settings. Do they need some work experience? So if they haven't worked before, let's give them some work-based learning opportunities. Does it need to be online? Should it be, can they take some courses also in universities, for example? So really personalized pathways here. And then the third step is, of course, the assessment and the certification. And here, very interesting, this is done through practical demonstrations per module. So this is, as I said just now, it's a modular structure, and each module is assessed and certified through these practical demonstrations, which involve teachers, but also employers. And I've put a quote on the slide here from a colleague from Finland who presented this model to us a few years ago. And he said, competence and skills matters. It's not the time used for studies. So it's really all about your competence and the skills, not the way you did it, not how long you took to develop those skills. So here, a very flexible system in Finland. Now, of course, this requires quite a bit of time, quite a bit of investment on the teachers and the provider front to be able to give that personalized guidance, to develop these personalized training plans. So of course, they need also the support to be able to deliver this. Some of the feedback that the colleagues from Finland shared with us is that it works quite well for adult learners. They need this type of flexibility. For young people, it is less relevant because they have kind of similar backgrounds. They come directly from initial education. They also mentioned that for some people who lack basic skills or who have some gaps in their basic skills, the system can be difficult. So linking back to what I said just before about that importance of closing the basic skills gap. So that's Finland's. Second example comes from the same region. I apologize for staying a bit in the European zone, but it's also interesting to show that countries in the same region do have some different approaches to these pathways. So here we have Denmark, which also has different pathways, but it's not as flexible as in Finland. So they've taken a kind of a more of a diversified approach rather than making everything flexible. They've created dedicated pathways for learners with different needs, for different aspirations, different backgrounds. I know that this figure is quite complex to read, and I won't go through a lot of the details here, but I wanted to highlight just that there's 2 types of pathways. So first one is for young learners coming in from initial education. The second one is for older learners who are returning to TVET. So the first pathway, and for the young learners, there are essentially 2 main pathways. There's a few more. I've adapted the figure to make it a bit less complicated. For young people, there's the standard pathway. So this is your standard TVET pathway with a lot of work-based learning. But there's also a pathway for those who want to obtain a TVET qualification and a general or academic qualification at the same time. So a very ambitious pathway that leads into 2 types of qualifications at the same time. So learners developing job-specific skills, but also general academic skills at the same time. So this is for young people. Then at the bottom, you also see the pathway for older learners. So these pathways lead to exactly the same qualifications, but they are more flexible. They recognize the skills that the adults already have. They recognize the types of learning they've already been through. They're more flexible in terms of format, so part-time, evening, as well, modular. So that's the way that they've taken this approach in Denmark. So different dedicated pathways for different types of learners and learners with different needs and aspirations. Now, interesting in this pathway story as well, and to close on the Danish case, is that there are also very clear pathways from TVET at the upper secondary level to TVET at higher levels. And that I find quite interesting, and we see a lot of interest in this topic as well, is the establishment of these professional tertiary education programs at what we call level 5. So this is between upper secondary education and bachelor's undergraduate programs. So very tailored, very kind of dedicated or specific programs, professionally oriented, tailored to the labor market, shorter in duration than bachelor programs, so they're typically 2 years. And students from TVET have, from upper secondary TVET, have direct access into these programs. And here again, the Danish have made the interesting choice to have programs dedicated to young people and dedicated to adults. So again, for adults, the pathway is more flexible. They need to have already some work experience to be able to enter the programs, but then they are part-time, they are modular, they are online to some degree. So just to highlight that these kind of flexible pathways are at the lower and the higher levels of TVET in Denmark. So just to close, because I see Ashwani already coming in, reminding me probably that I only have a few minutes left, but just to close with some policy messages coming from these two examples, but also more broadly from what we see happening in OECD countries. So flexible pathways are an interesting and a much needed approach, but they need to be easy to understand. So learners need to understand how they work, what they mean. Employers need to also understand what it means when someone has done such a flexible pathway. And they shouldn't be putting too much burden on the providers either. Quality assurance is vital here again in terms of transparency. So we need to make sure that the quality is still there and that employers understand that someone who went through this pathway has a good, well-rounded education as well. Of course, guidance is important to help learners understand what pathway should they go into, how does it work, what type of settings should they be training in. Recognition of prior learning, I think that came out very clearly from the Finnish and the Danish examples, is key. It's a crucial element of any type of pathway, but it also requires that there's a strong assessment system to be able to understand and validate those skills, and that they are linked, of course, to qualifications, so that qualifications are structured in terms of standards, in terms of learning outcomes. Modularization and micro-credentials, they contribute to that, so they can allow a more flexible pathway approach. And then secondly, in terms of kind of pathways into higher levels of learning, here, I think this is not a new message. TVET should never be a dead end. So if you've done a TVET qualification, you should be able to progress in your pathway. There should be pathways opening up for you into higher levels of learning. And some of those pathways could be programs, as I mentioned, in Denmark, like the Business Academy programs. They could be short cycle programs, 2-year programs between upper secondary and bachelor level programs that develop these kind of higher level technical skills that are in strong demand. So we see that in the digital and the green transition, for example. There's a lot of technical profiles that are in high demand, but that require above the upper secondary level skills. And that's where these kind of programs could fill an important niche. And they exist already in many countries in different shape and forms. So, for example, in England, they exist under the form of apprenticeship, for example. So they have introduced apprenticeships at these levels. They also exist in the form of what they call professional examinations in countries like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, where they really serve as an upskilling pathway for existing professionals. I will stop here and happy to take some questions.
Thank you very much, Marike, for giving very good examples from Finland and Denmark and explaining, and particularly also the main policy messages to make it successful. Now, you also mentioned about importance of modularization and including micro credentials. So while many countries talk about these ones and also in the process of introducing micro credentials, do you see any pitfalls in this process?
Thank you, Ashwani. And yes, it's a very hot topic. And I think ILO, OECD, all of us are working extensively on this as well. At the same time, it's not something new either. So we are calling it micro-credential, but in the past, many countries already had partial qualifications, modular systems. And as I highlighted, there's definitely value in it in terms of being able to personalize pathways, make things more flexible, to allow individuals to focus on their skill gaps rather than just rather than having to do a full qualification. But I do also see challenges, and I think we all agree on that as well. For example, if these modules and these micro credentials really become standalone courses and qualifications, then we need to make sure that they have a value in themselves, know that they are valued on the labor market as well, because otherwise there will be a proliferation of credentials without much value in themselves, and that will be hard for employers to understand, hard for individuals to navigate as well. And then there's, of course, also the risk, and that's something we hear quite a bit from the well-established TVET countries, that if we break things up, then maybe the sum of the parts is no longer equal to the full package. So there's a risk that by breaking things up, we miss some very important transversal skills, for example, some holistic parts that get lost. And then beyond those kind of more strategic questions, there's also the practical question. How do you make this work for work-based learning, for example, breaking it up or taking small bits and pieces here and there? So I think careful consideration should go into it. It has its value. We have to be careful. Flexibility is important, but it should probably not go too far. And we should always keep in mind that the full qualification is what gives you the full skill set that you need in labor markets, but more broadly in society as well.
I think what you are saying is very important, finding a right balance between regulation to ensure the quality and flexibility to so that meeting the needs of the labor market quickly. There's a big challenge there also. I think much more research needs to be done to come to a conclusion on how it can be done. For example, now European Commission's recommendation of micro-credential talks about these micro-credentials being part of a qualification system. So which already makes it very tied to this one. Now we also know that qualifications, formal qualifications are not so, it's not easy to amend them, modify them as per the fast changing needs of the labor market. So while the short term non-formal courses are created by the more private sector based on the demand in the labor market and from the people who wants to do these courses also. So I think as you have mentioned, ILO is also doing research. So next year, ILO will be coming up with its own guidance to support countries on how they can introduce and implement micro credentials. But it's a tricky area. With this one, I would say thank you very much. I can see many more questions have come already for you as you were speaking. So kindly, you and your colleagues look at those questions. And I will request all the panelists also, even if a particular question is not addressed to them, but many of these questions are common questions and we are all experts on this area. Please feel free to answer any of the questions which you think you'd like to answer. So with this one, now we'll go to our next segment, which is now going to be very, very interesting. Uh, Typically, we talk in the TVET, which is like either the secondary level or post-secondary level, but not at the university level. Typically, we talk about those programs. But today, we have specifically requested NSDC, Mr. Vedmani Tiwari, to talk about, there's some interesting initiatives are being taken by the government of India to improve higher education, particularly university education. And the reason is very simple. We always hear from all over the world that while we always, blame more of the TVET, but it's also true that at the university level education, the graduates from those programs have also a challenge of low employment rate also. And many countries are taking many initiatives, even the Arab Spring, if now most of us might have forgotten, which led to a lot of violence and change of governments in the northern Africa. All the Arab countries in the northern Africa basically started from the same issue. High unemployment rate of university graduates. So with this one, I will request, let me first, of course, most of you already know he's always our star panelist in every master class nowadays, but still let me introduce you formally. He is very well-known, accomplished leader with over 30 years of experience in government and the private sector. As the CEO of the NSDC, he champions technology-driven skills development. His passion for empowering youth through education and training makes him an inspiring figure in the field. Today, I have specifically requested him not to speak about the SID, which is becoming another very important initiative and successful initiative of the NSDC on the technology use. But I will invite him, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ashwani ji, for your kind words. And let me straight away jump into the discussion that we are having today. It's all about lifelong learning. And while I was hearing to the other two speakers, what we found is that what I'm going to discuss has the shades of what was presented by the two speakers. So I'll request the team to bring the presentation here. Ashwini, is my presentation visible to
Yes,
all?
it's very visible, and your voice is also very clear. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. So let's just move quickly to the. So these are the three aspects that we'll be covering: overview of higher education system in India, national education policy, and what are the innovation in higher education system. Let's move. So India is a large country. It has the largest population in the world, and that is also reflected in the higher education landscape. As you can see on the screen, more than 1100 plus universities, 46,000 affiliated colleges, 12,000 other institutions. And the universities are not only general academic, but they are technical, agriculture, medical, and law. So a plethora of expertise coming from universities. On right hand side, you will see that there are close to 43 million students enrolled, and good news is that female enrollment is 20.7 million. That means India has already achieved a parity of gender in terms of higher education, while our gross enrollment ratios are 28% or so, but government is working on to take it to 50%. One important factor that you will see as all over the world people talk about private universities. In India, the government universities constitute only 59%, but they account for 74% of the students, while private universities account for only 26% students. So government universities are very relevant for higher education system. Next. I'll talk about the whole concept of lifelong learning and integrating the experiential learning and training pathways and education is rooted in the National Education Policy 2020, which government adopted. Go back. There will be slides in between. Go next.
Dear participants, there is a minor technological snag. We'll resolving it soon. The presentation will be back soon.
Is it visible now?
Perfectly. Thank you.
So there are 6 pillars of this national education policy. Number 1 is student centricity. The educational ecosystem has largely been academic focused. The first pillar is student centricity, where curriculum flexibility with multiple entry and exit system has been adopted. We have an academic bank of credit, just like financial bank of credit. The education is credit based and you can bank your credits. I will talk about it later. And one very important feature is up to 50% of the credit that you can accrue in a higher education system can actually come from the vocational education system. So, Mr. Ashwini, you were just now talking about that typically TVET system, people stop at the secondary level, but here the TVET system is now being fully integrated in the higher education system, and up to 50% of the credit will come from TVET system. The second aspect is a lot of focus on research and innovation. India has set up a national research foundation with a large corpus to help universities pursue the research path. The equity and inclusion that I talked about, that the target is to go to 50% GR, and there are lots of institutional reforms happening. On the third pillar is to improve the faculty quality, and that is why teacher educational institutes are being set up. There is a national mission for mentoring, because mentors are considered extremely important stakeholders in this, and professional development and leadership. On governance side, if you see, the higher education institutions are self-governing, so there is a lot of freedom, and institutional restructuring is happening at the regulator level and the policy planners level to provide this flexibility. Digital is as you know, that digital India and digital public infrastructure in India is a way to go. So digital plays an extremely important role in this national education policy. Go next. Now, let me now talk about what are the innovations in higher education system in India. So there are, as I told you, that academic bank of credit is extremely important innovation. What it does, that if you want to really implement multiple entry exit, if you want to really implement flexibility in learning pathways, there has to be a mechanism where people can accrue their credentials and should be able to redeem it at their own convenience. So we have established a digital academic bank of credits, just like a financial bank. This is a bank for academic credits. There is a national credit framework. The learners can accrue their credit through an educational institution pathway, or they may go to a TVET system, or through experiential learning at the workplace. They accrue those credits and they can bank them in the academic bank of credits. What it actually does, it enhances mobility from the perspective is that, as I told you earlier, that up to 50% of your credits can come from TVET system, even in the higher education system. It ensures that there is a mobility, horizontal and vertical mobility among educational institution, TVET ecosystem and the workplaces. And the third important pillar here is interoperability. One can accrue credits in the TVET system and can get an academic institution can recognize them from the perspective of awarding higher education qualification. So go next. So it's I know that this is a busy looking slide, but I just want to give a simplified view. On left hand side you see academic pathways. In the middle green are all TVET pathways, and on the right hand side you find a workforce pathway. So there are lots of crisscrosses. They actually indicate that the academic qualifications are mapped to TVET qualifications, and TVET qualifications go up to the highest level. I will show you in the next stage. So one can freely move. Let's go back. One can effortlessly move from TVET ecosystem to a higher academic institution. We were just now listening that typically TVET becomes dead ends, but this is a mechanism which allows that one can move from a TVET system to a higher education system to the workforce, and the workforce learning is recognized in the TVET system through recognition of prior learning method, but also into the higher academic institution. So the knowledge that you acquire in the workforce through a recognition of prior learning it can actually go into the education system. Go next. Now this is how, if you see, there are three axes. One is you see red is an academic axis, green is a skill axis, and three is experiential learning axis. Now there is an interoperability among all this. If you see academic axis, this gives you your pathway until PhD. So one can be completely on the academic axis only. That's the choice that an individual have. Now the next axis is the national skill qualification framework that India has adopted. Your TVET qualifications are actually mapped from 1 to 8. You see horizontally is also 1 to 8, vertical is also 1 to 8. So for every academic qualification, you have a equivalent skill qualification recognized in national skill qualification framework. So one can move freely from one level to other between this axis. And the third axis that you see is a proficiency axis that you acquire at the workplaces. So there are 4 levels of proficiency: trained, proficient, expert, and master. And these are based on the time that you spent at the workplace, and then you do an assessment through a RPL method. And these all the credits that you accrue across any of these 3 dimensions, you keep on banking in the academic bank of credit, and these can be redeemed at any convenient point of time in your life. And these you can also redeem credits at a different institution. So you are not bound to a one academic institution. You accrue a part of your academic credit or a TVET credit in one institution. Because these credits are banked in your academic bank of credit, you redeem into another institution. So that's the flexibility of this. Let's go next. It looks complex, but it actually shows that even through TVET path also you can reach up to PhD. That's the beauty of the system, that there is a grid, and that it gives you a true lifelong learning framework. The regulators of the 3 ecosystem, the University Grants Commission, the All India Technical Education, and National Council for Vocational Education and Training, have all signed up one single document of recognition, which is called National Credit Framework. So that's as we were talking about, this becomes a national system for certification across all the 3 dimensions. Go next. As I told you earlier, in your higher education system, up to 50% of your credit can come from TVET or work experience. That means that one can enter into a higher academic institution at any point of time, which grows truly the path, the growth path for an individual. Go next. What is the one common factor for this? Many of you know that India has adopted one biometric identity for every citizen in the country, which is called Aadhaar. Relying upon that concept, we have also come out with a one nation, one student identity, which is called APAR ID. So the student, when they go in their from the first time they enter into an early childhood education system, they get an APAR ID. So you can get your APAR ID from your kindergarten admission or from your TVET this thing. But this APAR ID is a 12-digit code which stays with you for your entire life. And all the credits that we talked about, they are mapped to this ID. And they are mapped into academic bank of credit. So this framework of national credit framework, APAR ID and academic bank of credit, helps the entire ecosystem of TVET, workplaces, and the academic institutions to work together, and that is how it becomes a student-centric framework where students make most of the choices. Next. The third dimension of this innovation is that industry has got a very important role now, and that means industry can also lead a learning journey. So University Grants Commission of India has recently come out with a concept called degree apprenticeship, where just like a dual system of training, a person at the workplace can enroll. It's a tripartite agreement with an academic institution, an employer, and an apprentice. They sign up, and they keep on acquiring their theoretical basis from the academic institution, which has become partners here. So that means the people can actually acquire degree programs while being in the workforce. Go next. India has also come up with a skill university. So just like academic universities, skill universities have got a lot of flexibility from University of Grants Commission in terms of their curriculum design. And there are at this point of time, there are around 20 skill universities in the country, and they are working more with the employers, and their curriculum integrates a lot of component which is acquired at the workplace. So employers play a very important role in skill university, and this is a new institution emerging which is integrating workplaces with the TVET and academic institutions. And third, which is the last point that I want to make, this is an extremely important new initiative with the Prime Minister of India has launched, is an internship scheme where students are paid to go to and 500 top companies in the country. We were just listening about corporate social responsibility. 500 top companies in the country have come together with the government of India, and they are going to provide internship opportunities to 10 million people in next 5 years. These are 12-month opportunities, and their internship, their stipend for the internship, 90% will be paid by the government of India and 10% from the employers from their corporate social responsibility obligations. That's a truly powerful mechanism to incentivize workplace integration for students, where government is providing the support for this. And I will stop here. This is what, there's a lot that we can talk about, but and each one of these is an independent topic in itself, but we just wanted to present a framework that that's how we can implement lifelong learning into a national system base. And I will again say that Ashwani ji said that Siddh, today we are not about to talk about Siddh, but I just want to tell that Siddh is a digital platform which brings all this together, and that becomes a true partner to any citizen in India. Thank you so much from my side.
Thank you very much, Veji. I think what we are seeing today, I will not be concluding because we have Dr. Emery to conclude also, but at the same time, I know that so much interesting information and details are coming. So we'll request panelists and participants who can still stay back for another 10-15 minutes, so that he can also do make some good conclusion of this one. But at this stage, I will say, for example, we have today linked very nicely. We started with vocational institutions at the post-secondary level. Now we are going to the higher education level. And we can see the clear linkage from there, that we are talking about now in the university also vocational courses. While we are started talking about vocational courses linking to the higher level, but now we are also talking universities going downwards, basically, not downwards in the sense, but back towards the vocational one also. So this is a very interesting futuristic model of education system is coming, where we cannot distinguish between education system on one hand and vocational system on other hand. So it's a true way that vocational students need more academic knowledge, but at the same time, academic students need more of vocational knowledge, so that they are also employable. Now, Vijay, you have presented very interesting one, and as we were discussing before with the Marike also, while bringing new initiatives are important, like micro-credential, she also mentioned that how important it is to ensure the quality. But where the missing link in most of the country is a backbone system. That a backbone system which can ensure, how if the bigger the country is, that more difficult to manage these short-term ones. You mentioned about the SIT platform. We have not gone into details, but last our master class was completely on the SIT platform. That was a one way of reaching out, providing the courses. Another one which you have brought very interesting today is ABC, Academic Bank of Credits, Now, if so many different providers are providing credits, how to accumulate, where to accumulate, and how to recognize each other, one very important one. You have come up with this, India has come up with Apar ID, which is based on like a Aadhaar ID. Aadhaar, when it was, I remember when it was initially developed, there was so much of skepticism was there. People were against it, but now it has become backbone of India's uh, basically whole the government reaching out and providing social justice, all the welfare schemes and everything, is linked to that. And it has made life of everyone so smooth also. Similarly, APAR ID will become the same way manner, linked with our ABC, so that people don't need to look for different when the more the flexibility is required, you need backbones like this one mechanism. And so I have a question that what is the implementation? What are lessons learned from this? You mentioned very nice slide also, the three axis, academic skills, and the third one was the more on the course skills one side, experiential learning, and also allowing universities to offer 50% up to the 50% vocational credit. It's a massive task. So what are the lessons learned on this one?
That enabling framework has been provided, the architecture is available, but where we find that it's only 2 years we are into this, most of the academic institutions are struggling to find right skill credits to embed into program, because ultimately we cannot have broken systems as the earlier speaker was talking about. The skill credits also have to gel well with the entire curriculum. So many institutions. So what we are doing here is that we have also brought in global certification. So I can talk about the NSDC Academy is doing a very good job here, that certifications from Microsoft or Google or ABB or Siemens, which are global certifications, they are being embedded into the program itself. So for a civil engineer, the BIM platform and all those things are being integrated. So while there is a struggle to find enough credit worthy TVET interventions into higher education system. So that's a work in progress, and we are working on all this. The second challenge that remains is an assessment, that in academic institutions there is a consensus that how do you assess people. The assessment in the TVET world is a still quite debated subject, and that's where the academicians struggle, that if I have to, because ultimately the credits will be recognized through a accepted assessment method, because as we talked about mobility, so if some student wants to want to have a horizontal mobility, then the other institution has to accept the credit from the this thing. And if those credits, there are good methods to do equivalence in academic world, but if the credits are coming in if the academic bank of credit the person is claiming coming from TVET system, then academic institutions are struggling for that. So assessments which are trustworthy and which can be accepted by others is becoming another area. And third is the entire experiential learning aspect, the credit that one wants to claim through recognition of prior learning method, that again brings the whole question of how do you assess these people. And one of the solve that is being done is through a multiplier factor, but ultimately I think that the center point remains find enough vocational programs which can fit into a higher education curriculum and build trusted assessment systems. And there again Siddh is doing a great job in bringing technology into it. So whether it's one can actually do a lot of AR VR based virtual lab based simulations, and because these are traceable and you have a data traceability, the academic institutions can start trusting them. That's a topic for another day, but technology can play a very big role into this.
No, thank you very much, because I think there's a lot more we can discuss with these top level experts from all over the world. But the message is, to me, particularly technical level, is very clear that yes, policies are very, very important and new developments are very important. I think where the TVET system has to ramp up is most in terms of delivery and assessment also. new methods, new innovations. I think focus of new innovation has to be on this area. As everyone is saying the same thing, ultimately it comes how part, how to do that one. So that how part has to be more where the role of innovation has to come. Innovation has to come. I think more innovation has to come on these concepts which have been developed, how to make them feasible, in different contexts. I will not go more onto this one, but again, thank you very much to all our esteemed panelists for this enlightening discussion which you have carried out today and for your time. Now we are approaching the end of the session, and it is now my honor to call upon Dr. Alexander Emery, Director of Sponsorship and Partnership, World Skills International, and he was so enthusiastic to participate in this one that he's, I don't know where he was traveling to many countries, and still he has been able to find time. And his task is very, very challenging to deliver the closing remark in a short time, which is always very, very difficult. And also I have to say that he has more than 20 years of international experience in various aspects of management. And he has worked across countries, Germany, Qatar, and Canada. And now he's working in the world skills. So he's already a champion of the championing the TVET system all over the world. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Ashwani. And as you say, respecting the time of everyone, I will try to keep that very short. And within the conversations post the presentations and with you, Ashwani, summarizing several of the topics, I think we have already given a really good high-level summary of the themes and topics there. But I also try to put a bit of the world skills angle to it. So thank you to the ILO for inviting world skills to this masterclass on innovation and excellence in education and lifelong learning. It's my honor and great pleasure to deliver these closing remarks for this important session alongside several world skills partners. The ILO, the World Bank, the European Commission, UNESCO, and the OECD, with whom we have partnered for several projects and initiatives in skills development, and who are also partner of our World Skills Conference Coalition, which implements a global TVET dedicated conference alongside our skills competition every 2 years. And of course, NSDC, an active member of World Skills, organizing World Skills India, supporting to promote our movement in Southeast Asia and globally, and participating in World Skills competitions for almost 2 decades. Please allow me to give a quick intro in who we are. World Skills is the global hub for skills excellence and development, with 89 member countries and regions that connect over 2/3 of the world's population. Through our national, regional, and global skills competition, we inspire millions of young people around the world to not only choose a career in skills, but to pursue excellence as they train and join the workforce. We are convinced that striving for excellence accompanies them throughout their entire professional lives. This is one of the main reasons why countries and regions join World Skills, because they share and believe that there is no sustainable development or economic growth without skilled people. World Skills gives them the access to a platform where they can expose their students and training providers to global training standards, benchmark and improve their systems, and engage with governments, policymakers, and industries. Excellence is the basis of our World Skills occupational standards for each of the 65 skills competitions that we're currently running, which set the scope of our skills competitions. They are also a reference point to help countries to review the capacity and the capability of their vocational education and training systems. They incorporate transversal skills like problem solving or sustainable practice, for example, as crucial aspects of occupational excellence, looking beyond the technical abilities and at the essential traits that make professionals stand out. In many countries, our members integrate the occupational standards into their TVET curricula. This is one of the ways how WorldSkills helps building excellence beyond competitions. Today, we have learned ideas and best practices that promote flexible skills ecosystems that adapt to individual skilling and upskilling needs. What we see in some countries that the profile of WorldSkills participants, we call them WorldSkills champions, has changed over the years. We see an increase of our competitors who are studying in or have recently graduated from higher education. This reflects how countries are elevating the level of TVET training, the level at which apprenticeships are available to make TVET more attractive. Both the European Commission's experience with the Centers of Vocational Excellence and the innovative solutions being implemented by the NSDC across India show how partnerships and collaborations are at the root of success. We have also learned from our colleagues from the OECD that more personalized, inclusive, and flexible learning paths are crucial to equip today's learners with the skills needed to succeed in these fast-changing times. While we might associate WorldSkills to competitions only, our global movement is also about international collaboration. Our network of members, NGO, IGO partners, industry partners, champions, and experts provide support and mentorship across regions through projects, initiatives, and activities that advance vocational education and training globally. Let's put simply, we cannot achieve excellence and lifelong learning without the constant interaction between all key stakeholder groups, governments, policymakers, educational training providers, and industries. And of course, let's not forget the youth. Thank you, and back to you, Ashwani.
Thank you very much, I think, for presenting WorldSkills International. And now I think it's not a new organization. Everyone knows it. I had a privilege to be participating in Lyon in France just few months, I think 2 months ago only, in France, where I also participated in the WorldSkills conference. It was a mesmerizing experience, I can say. The opening ceremony. So when you sit down in the stand, participants coming like Olympic Games, coming, doing the marching, going to their seats, it's a different, you watching on the TV screens or something is a different. One has to be there to feel the pride each participant had, each participating teams had in their flags. I think I think your organization has done a wonderful job. And more countries which never even thought about, see, there were the countries who at this stage have no, and clearly understand they may not be able to win a competition there, medal there, but they are participating because they have a clear vision that this is future. Because this allows everyone to motivate the countries to excel, compete with others. And I can see some of the questions on this one also on the Q&A is also about global mobility, international standards, skill standards. That is one way of bringing it to that one also, this standards and benchmarking between countries. Of course, we cannot have, they say that the same standard has to work all over the world. I think this is a bit misnomer because occupation, level of technology, processes, method used in different countries are different. So we cannot have a uniform international standards, but always as a TVET expert, I cannot go into details because I was just trying to answer some of the questions through this intervention is also, the basic principle of education system is to build a very strong foundation. That's what we promote core skills, which include new and not only cognitive skills, but also social emotional skills. And now ILO has included basic digital and basic green skills as part of the core framework also. The purpose is that once you have a very strong ethics, knowledge, foundation level, then on that foundation, you can always build on further. And as we were discussing, the systems have to be modular. more and more modular, more micro credentials, so that as per the need of the market, you can always have some new combination. And gradually, what we are seeing a world where the need of qualification is there, will always be there. I'm not saying there, but gradually there's always a move towards skills-based recruitment system also, because employers also knows that a qualification provides a benchmark to screen the candidate, but it is not sufficient because the world is changing so fast, and lifelong learning is reskilling and upskilling is becoming so important. So that's what, as I can see, what India is promoting, the ABC system, APAR ID, these are all going to be very in the future, very, very practical ways of accumulating the credit. So it's more and more the world is moving towards the credit-based system. As Mariki also mentioned, there has to be a balance between the flexibility as well as quality. So I think these credit, gradually we have to work together. And I think more and more need is that each country, instead of working each country in isolation, I think we have to form networks, work together, develop more innovative solutions. As Kiara mentioned in the presentation, if their COEV are not only specific to one country, they are joining hands. 5 or 6 countries are joining hands together, uh, is to pool their knowledge and resources, because no single country, no single institution can do all this work. And because the world of work is changing so fast, we have to be much more faster and dynamic in that education training system. And that can only happen if we form partnership, collaborate within a country, between different type of stakeholders, but across the countries also. And gradually, we all know the demographic changes are also changing fast. In some countries, it is aging population. They don't have the young workers to take up those job roles. And some countries have surplus young persons and they do not have enough jobs there. So as the globalization has increased, that production can take place in any country, I think there has to be a movement. It is in the interest of every country, while many countries try to protect their borders in terms of migrations, but when the way the product liberalization has taken place, the liberalization of people's movement has to take place also. Otherwise, those developed countries which have initially benefited by globalization of the products, they will face challenges when they don't have enough manpower to support their factories or their service sector also. So it's in the interest of everyone that we have to work towards a more globalized world, where everything, if the products can be moved freely, labor has to be moved freely and come to a more common ways of working together and support each other. With this one, I will say thank you very much. And once again, to all the panelists and all the participants for sticking to us also, despite in these times when people have got fed up with online webinars. There are too many of them, but still we see in our master classes, while this one is not only on the Zoom, it is also being live telecast on the YouTube, and large number of participants join there also. You can still see, even though we extended significantly, there are still so many participants still with us. Thank you very much. And we promise that we always look into burning issues, burning challenges, and we do a lot of research in terms of selecting topics for our master classes and then selecting the right speakers and experts to bring them together. We do a lot of, you may not know all those things. We spend a lot of weeks together with them, how they present, what issues they present, and that's why you see the result is so good. So thank you very much again once more, and we look forward to meeting you again after a few months on a new topic. Thank you very much. Thank you. Maybe I request all the panelists who are still present to switch on their videos. We can have a common photo or something. And